Welcome back to Nerd Thug Radio. I'm the Captain Joey Savage. That's Zach.
What up?
That's Colt. You're listening to us on Conroe's 104.5, 106.1,
Sister stations,
and worldwide at
IRLoneStar.com.
And don't forget, check us out at Facebook.com/Nerd Thug Radio. Nerd Thug Radio. Give us a like and share us with your friends.
Part of a complete breakfast.
So we're on the last segment of episode 77. Corey DLG has been dealing with gas issues the whole show and been in the back, hasn't been able to get on the mic. So me and Zach have taken over. So this will be a segment that me and Corey would usually do with his extensive knowledge of comic books, specifically the X-Men, but Zach's going to fill in for him, and it's going to be great. So I was reading this article on, let me go back and reference this website, on Cheat Sheet. And they listed the 5 best X-Men in the X-Men universe. 5 best characters in the X-Men universe. So before I reveal their top 5, which they listed in no particular order, Zach Attack, what is your list of the 5 best characters in the X-Men universe and why? Go, sir.
Okay, so I have Magneto, Professor X, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, and it troubles me, Jean Grey.
Okay.
Magneto and Professor X, my reasons are they're similar. They're two.
I'll just tell you now, you hit 3 of their 5.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Okay, go ahead.
They're two sides of the same coin, right? Magneto is the Malcolm X of mutant rights, whereas Charles Xavier is
The
Martin
Dr.
Luther King.
Correct.
The fact that they're both very damaged individuals, and especially the things that get revealed that they're both doing what they think is right at the expense of no matter what, I think it's always made for very interesting reading. Without Magneto, Professor X would never have formed the X-Men. Without the X-Men, without Professor X, X-Men never would have formed. He's everything that Charles isn't, and vice versa. Wolverine, for obvious reasons, I'm a big fan of damaged characters.
Right.
I think they offer a lot more in the way of character development. I think they offer a lot more in terms of entertainment. The raw, savage brutality of Wolverine is only the very top layer of what makes him interesting as a character to me. The fact that he has to deal with his long life, the fact that he's been through so much, and has had such a damaged and rough life, and in a weird way, one of my favorite parts of the X-Men universe is the interactions between Wolverine and Professor X. That they have kind of a buddy camaraderie, and Wolverine is his most emotional with Professor X. Jean Grey. Jean Grey's just had so much happen to her.
She has.
Like, it's hard
Crazy
to
amount.
not acknowledge her as, first, one of the most powerful mutants in existence.
Right, correct.
And secondly, one of the driving forces behind most of the huge stories in X-Men canon. In recent years, maybe not as much, but the Phoenix, the Dark Phoenix, all of that stuff, Scott Summers, all of that family stuff, Cable, Madeline Pryor, all of these things are so intricately tied to Jean Grey. And she's kind of, I don't know, she's a weird broad.
She is.
I like the way Jean's written, though, or I like the way Jean has been written in the past, and I like her as, number one, the last one to join the X-Men, the original group of
Original
X-Men.
5.
And I don't know, I've always liked Jean Grey.
Okay.
Nightcrawler is my pick on this list, and I doubt it made their list. I really like Nightcrawler because it'd be very, very easy for Nightcrawler or a character like Nightcrawler to not have anything but being a mutant. But the fact that he's very, very Catholic and he's a priest and he doesn't ever let go of his faith and it keeps him strong through different times. And the fact that he's been through so much himself, dealing with a father who is maybe kind of like a demon, things like that. I just always found that, and this is probably a little bit of the Catholic in me, but I always found it very, very interesting that religion was such a big part of who Nightcrawler was.
Right. For a mutant.
Right.
Right.
When it's very, very easy to not see anything good in your life when you look like Nightcrawler.
Right. True.
To
that.
not have faith, to not keep
True
that
that.
strength. So those are my 5, I
So
think.
Cheat Sheet, they listed 5. 3 of yours are on there. So we'll start with the most obvious. And one of the things when they were making their list, I read it to you before, there was no really defining characteristic.
Right. Best is a real broad
And
term.
they're basically just saying that, I mean, let's be honest, the X-Men have become a huge part of Marvel Comics. a huge part in pop culture, and so
Yeah, when you say something like best, like, do you
Right.
mean
They
most
didn't-
entertaining to read, most
Right.
developed character,
They didn't-
strongest, most
they
powerful?
did. They
like,
gave
there's
no
so many
definition.
things. Right.
They had Professor X and Magneto on there.
Yeah.
Very understandable, as we said. Without Professor X, there is no X-Men. Magneto in himself, maybe one of the top 3 most iconic villains when you think of Marvel Comics. I'd probably go him, Red Skull, and a combination of Spider-Man villains.
Yeah, he's one of the villains that it's easiest to empathize with sometimes.
Right, it is.
And
he's always like he was a huge villain in the early days, and here recently in modern comics in the last 8-9 years, he's been almost kind of like an anti-hero.
right. And he's a straight up terrorist. Like,
Right.
it's something that you lose kind of sight of in the movies, but like he's a straight up terrorist, but
True.
he's not one that you don't see where he's coming from.
They chose Wolverine as well.
Yeah.
Wolverine, without a doubt, I think is probably the most popular X-Men character
Yeah.
of all time.
I would say he's probably the most well known of
Right.
any Marvel character.
Any Marvel character,
I
he's an
I
X-Men.
used to think maybe it was Spider-Man, but
It's Wolverine.
But I think it's Wolverine. Everybody knows Wolverine.
He's been
My
on the
mother knows Wolverine.
He's been on the X-Men. He was on the Avengers,
Right.
X-Force. He's been all over the place.
Right.
So their last 2 differ from yours too. Now, I will say this: Jean Grey, not even on their honorable mentions.
That's weird.
Right. They listed Storm as one of the top 5 best. Now, if you look at Storm from a comic book perspective, she's a huge deal. She's led the X-Men.
Right. And
numerous
I
X-Men teams.
love Storm.
And
she's
you-
one of my favorites. I like her backstory.
Right.
But
Yeah, she's a warrior. She's a queen. She's, in a world of comics where you don't have a lot of African-American heroes.
Yeah.
She's one of them.
yeah.
But when you look,
I like her. I like that a black woman is a for sure strong character in the comics. I just don't.
but yeah, when you take it out of comics and look at it from a movie perspective even, or
Is she the best? And
Right.
what about her makes her? I don't know.
Right.
Better than Jean Grey is a
so
stretch.
yeah, so no, I can okay with that. Their 5th one, I don't agree with, only because I don't think he fits solely into the X-Men universe, and they chose Deadpool. Like,
Really?
Deadpool was on their top 5 list. Now, Deadpool is a very popular character in all of comics. He's huge, but I wouldn't consider him part of the X-Men universe. Like, yeah, he's a mutant, I guess, but I would consider him more just a Marvel character.
I'd probably consider him part of the X-Men universe. I wouldn't have picked Deadpool, though, because Deadpool is fun to read, and he's a
Yeah.
great character, but what is he? What does he bring to the table? Like, he's got his own stories, for sure, and they're good.
Mm-hmm.
He's got his own storylines. He's done the crossovers with Cable. He's been involved
I
in
love
X-Men
Cable.
stuff.
He's my favorite.
Right, he is amazing.
Take that, Corey.
But, like, he's not...
So the one they left off
He's nothing.
that I think should be in the top 5 is Cyclops himself.
No.
I think Cyclops, if you've read modern X-Men comics in the last 10 years, Cyclops himself is probably one of the most important X-Men that they've got going on. Like, he leads so many of the different X-Men teams. He becomes like the leader of the X-Men. They have this whole storyline with the Avengers versus the X-Men. Then they have this whole X-Men rift. There's this whole thing between him and Wolverine. There's always been a thing over Jean Grey because of, between Cyclops and Wolverine. And they've really prompted him up and propelled him in the last 6-10 years to be a huge deal.
And he
becomes the new Magneto.
He's a huge deal, and I don't disagree with that.
He becomes the new Magneto. And
I
he would
never-
he'd be on my list. I probably would have taken the same list as you, except for Nightcrawler. I would have put Cyclops on there. 'Cause I think Jean Grey is a huge deal too.
I just don't. I see Cyclops always as a Boy Scout, and even though he's a villain now,
Right,
part
but
of- part of
where
me
does
thinks-
where do you stop in your reading of Cyclops? In
I know
X-Men
enough
comics?
about what's going on
Right.
to understand.
Yeah, he's
but
a
part of
long
me
way
feels
from the-
like
from
what
the
I've
Boy
read, and I
Scout.
haven't read all the books. He's not a Boy Scout anymore, but part of me feels that the reason Cyclops is like he is now is because he's rebelling against what he grew up and grew
Maybe
in.
so.
And I don't. It's harder for me. I would never compare him to Magneto. It's harder for me to get on board with him as a great character.
No, yeah, but
And-
he becomes that Magneto character that is all about saving the mutants.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes, mutants first. Like he fills that role, and because Professor X is dead or has been dead, Magneto's almost, and he hasn't filled Professor X's role. That's more been Storm who's kind of taken that one. But yeah, I feel like he's a big character in X-Men comics that really gets overlooked.
And I think that there's a lot about Cyclops that does get overlooked. It's not just the Eye of Blast, right? Like he's a tactical genius. He's been trained to be a leader, and there's a lot about Cyclops that I like. And I do need to catch up on and read where he is now. It's just that the fact that he's been a Boy Scout for so long, it's hard for me to overlook.
They honorable mention.
He's such the cookie cutter hero character for so long, and like, oh, the burdens of leadership. Oh, I'm sad. Oh, I'm Cyclops.
No, but yeah, I really like the direction they took him. But
yeah,
they honorable mentioned Beast, Rogue, Mystique, Nightcrawler, and Cyclops. No mention of Jean Grey at all. And you're right, she's been a huge part of like most of the big storylines that involve the X-Men.
Beast, I like. Beast was. I was thinking Beast is a good choice. I think because he's been a very conflicted character, and like he's been so involved with so much.
I think the only reason that they have brought Mystique into it is because they've used her in these new movies,
which they have done great.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
But other than that, she's not a big character.
Yeah.
But I mean, with that, we're gonna wrap up here, episode 77 of Nerd Thug Radio. Zack Attack joining us for the first time in a while.
Yeah,
taking away from Corey DLG and his gas explosions.
Yeah, somebody had to.
Don't forget, check us out at facebook.com/Nerd Thug Radio and nerdthugradio.com, where you can catch the podcast tomorrow. And be on the lookout for signups for our Extra Life Mario Kart tournament.
What?
I'm the Captain Joey Savage, and you are listening to Nerd Thug Radio. Same Nerd Thug time, same Nerd Thug channel.